up. So Helms and Mundell in the wings now. Two quarterbacks who were very highly touted coming out of high school, both entering their junior years, but haven't seen game time yet. Tell me what those guys will bring to the game in the hope we don't face it, but in the event that you got to put them in the game.
Yeah, sure. So Kel Helms, like you said, both of those guys highly touted. I actually recruited Mundell. I had the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He went to Arlington Martin High School and had a tremendous career there, kind of did everything for them, which we've seen him in a variety of roles here as well. Kick returner, punt returner, playing slot. He's a dynamic kid. But Kel Helms is a guy that has really shown the most growth of really a lot. I mean, if you look at the offense in general, there's a lot of guys that have stepped up in different roles and really have shown growth and development over the course of a year or the process that we're in now. But Cale from spring until now is one of the most drastic growth that I've seen at the position. And he's really accepted that role. He's matured in how to handle his business from a professional standpoint. You know, he's gifted. He's talented. He can make any throw on the field. He's tough as nails. He's gritty. He's got good speed. He's got good feet. So it really dynamic and has all the intangibles that you want at the quarterback position. And the only thing holding him back, and he would admit it, is just the maturity level of being able to process things in the offense and not leaving things to chance. You know, I think he relied solely on his ability and what he was capable of doing at the high school level, and he put up, you know, monster numbers in the highest classification in the state of Texas. So you know the ability is there, but he's really dove into the offense and study in the summer and really brought his game a long way to a point where I would not flinch if Kel Helms had to go into a game. I trust him. He's tough. You know, he's a guy that we can win with. And the biggest thing was trust. And now he's no longer a roller coaster ride. He's been much more consistent. And I really would not flinch if we had to put him in a game.
And I have to say, as a Texan looking down, you get your three deep on quarterback or all Texans. You can't go wrong there.
That's right. We and then we just lost one from Texas. So we love the state of Texas. That's for sure.
And also, you're playing the Texans this weekend. But
that's right.
A question I have: there's a few familiar faces on the offense. I think you lost 7 starters. Let the fans know some names that we might be a little more familiar with at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the guys like Hayden Reed, I know he played a different position for us last year, really versatile player. But, you know, the story with Hayden, you know, he plays slot the entire year. And then Kanye transfers to Arizona State. So in the bowl game, you know, Hayden had gotten some reps at running back during the season sporadically, not much, but had practiced a little bit at both positions. And, you know, you go into the bowl game and he really goes back, and now he's the full-time running back, and he gets a week under his belt. And then the performance he had in the bowl game, I think he was right at 20 carries for over 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
You know, so he is a very good football player, and he has been every year he's been here, even playing as a freshman. And so he is a dynamic threat at the running back position in a lot of different ways. He's a really good pass catcher. He's versatile in the run game. He's really physical as a lead blocker as well. You know, in some cases, you know, he's a little bit more versatile than what we've seen. Not to take anything away from anybody else, but Hayden gives a different dimension at that position. And then also at that position, you know, Jake Rendina played last year, but he's transformed his body. You know, he's 235, 240 pounds now. So he's trimmed down. You know, we know what he is. He's the old school fullback model in every sense of the word, but, you know, he's really improved of understanding run fits and playing without the ball. And so I expect, you know, both of those guys to have major impact. And then the third running back is Carson Smith. And he played at times last year. He got some some burn in the Louisiana Tech game and the bowl game, but really powerful runner, has a knack for, taking his hip away and getting extra yardage. But he's a really good player, talented with the ball in his hands, has come a long way in terms of grasping the whole offense. And then also at the running back position, a young kid, Briggs Bartosh, who's going to be a sophomore. He is one of the most dynamic kids in that room. Really good speed out of high school. He's a sub 1100 meter guy. Wow. He played quarterback in high school. We recruited him as a slot, and now he weighs 212 pounds. So transitioning him to that position, it gives you another gear. Some of the conventional run game and some of the things that we do both under center and the gun. He is more of your traditional running back, and so he presents problems. So I'm really confident in that room and how deep we are. And then moving on, like Parker Pulaski at the tight end position. We always knew that he was incredibly talented and getting to step up as the starter this year. Dynamic, really, really good in the run game, but also presents problems in the pass game. So, having a dynamic threat at the tight end position that can do both is really critical on the perimeter and in the core. And then that room I'm been really, really happy with, and the addition of Coach Hessness and Coach Burks coaching the running backs and the tight ends. Those guys are phenomenal. And Coach Hessness has a really, really deep room in the tight end room, and we have depth, So Brian Dyer, also a Texan from Plano, Texas. He's come into his own as of late and really shown, what he can do both in the pass game and the run game. And then Tex Brennan, who's also from Texas, but played at Gonzaga High School. That's right. So, that room is deep, and there's some young guys, Noah Pryor and James Rothstein as well, that really elevate that room, and I'm really excited about them. And then, the offensive line, I'll just ramble on.
Yeah.
But the offensive line, replacing guys for, Bill Katsianis, Lucas Scott, and Connor Finucane, and all those guys being able to start and play in every game. I don't know that I've ever been a part of that in a season where all 5 offensive linemen started and played in every game, and the chemistry that provides.
Kind of leads to a Joe Moore Award, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did. So, it's hard to say that you're going to replace that. We'll be a little bit of a work in progress, but I tell you guys, the guys that we have replacing those guys are really talented. And Teddy Williams, who we moved from tight ends, who played tight end last year, one of the things that we noticed on film when he was playing tight end and some of the mop-up duty towards the end of games, but just a fierce guy at the point of attack. And, we made the transition from him to tight end to tackle, and now he's 300 pounds and 6'5", and moving around really well, has all the intangibles to do anything that you ask at that position. So really excited about his growth and development and potential. He's got an extremely high ceiling. He's a guy that could play at the next level if it all aligns. He's extremely talented and gifted. And then Henry Appleton at the left tackle position, also from Texas, Denton Ryan High School. He's a guy that will fill that void and do it really well. So really excited about the tackles. They're just not proven. They need to play and get some reps under their belt. And then the left guard position, Will Jeffcoat, who had played and started games even dating back to 2022 prior to his injury. So him replacing Bill Katsianis is really, they're very similar. Will Jeffcoat is the bell cow of that room. He's a tremendous leader. He's really physical, really gritty, and tough. So, to say that we're going to be the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line, that's really difficult to say. But I'm really pleased with how those guys have molded into the unit they are now, and tremendous upside. And we're a work in progress there, but I think eventually there's not going to be a major drop off at that position whatsoever. So I'm really pleased there, and what they've been able to accomplish. And they're really well coached. So excited there. And then moving to the slot position, lot of familiar faces there.
Mm.
Losing Tyrell Robinson and Miles Stewart, and really transitioning Hayden Reed. So that's 3 guys that played that position last year that won't be playing it this year. But Noah Short is back.
Oh yeah.
Samari Howard is back. We know what Noah is, and Samari is a tremendous football player. He's one of our smartest football players, really football savvy, can do a lot of things. And then new faces will be Brady Mott will play the slot position, really, in replacing a guy like Hayden Reed at that position, as well as Aiden Self. So those are 2 young guys that haven't played that will certainly play and impact us even this Friday night. And at the other slot position behind Noah, Samari will fill that void at times, and then also David Day Clerk will play, as well as Trey Benson. And then to fill that position is right now is Chase Knox. And really dynamic kids. They all have different aspects that make them unique, but can help us in a variety of ways. So really excited about those guys and the returning of Noah and guys like Samari. And then lastly, the wide receiver position, Liam Fortner and Toby Alawale are back. They've been a little banged up in fall camp. So we'll see what that looks like moving forward, but really excited about those guys and what they can do. We know what Liam is. We call that guy the assassin for a reason. But he's really developed as a leader, and also his role with the void left by Casey Reynolds. Those guys, Toby Alawale had a splash freshman season and, dealt with a lot of injuries last year and still dealing with some injuries, but we expect to get him back. And I certainly see him being able to impact us this year. And then the younger guys, Brady Anderson, Kavon, KP Pointer, and Kurt Thompson will kind of fill that wide receiver room. And those guys are Brady Anderson's a young kid, hasn't played, but really high on him and his upside. KP got to play in some mop-up duty, and we know what we have with him. He's consistent. He's tough. We know what we're going to get out of him. And then Kurt Thompson is one of those guys that has hung around the program like a Cam Sure and is going to find his way, playing on Saturdays. And so really consistent unit and looking forward to their development and seeing what they can do on Friday.
Hey, Coach, I think we got one question from Steve and then one more from me, and then we're going to let you go.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
I rattle off here a few more. Good to hear about the offensive line. That was sort of one of my question points, because I know not only is it the individual skill play, of the individual linemen, but it's how do they function as a unit, and I know that comes with time. So hopefully that they'll be able to build on the preseason and really come together. But the question I got for you is, if you remain static in terms of your offense, people watch enough game tape, especially opposing defensive coordinators. What do you do to keep your pulse on sort of the evolution of the game, things that are innovative that you might want to incorporate into your offense and shape it going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Every season, typically offenses do a major self-evaluation, and we did that in the off season. You look at the amount of snaps that we had, the success rate, and we have some analytics that show just how efficient certain concepts were, what we can do, where we can add, what we need to drop. But through self-evaluation and the current personnel, you come up with the best system or the scheme within our system. That's one thing that is unique to us. We're very systematic in our approach. We don't do a ton of install every week. We have our playbook, we have our scheme. It's what are the new wrinkles? What are the new formations? How can we present problems? How can we get dirty eyes or communication on the defense? How can we attack in the conventional run game or the option game? How can we utilize unbalanced or certain formations that they're not accustomed to? So, just looking at our current personnel and what best suits us, there's definitely things that will be different and things that you'll see even Friday that'll be some things that you didn't probably see last year. But we're not going to wholesale change by any means, but we're very on top of, all right, here are the things that we need to do to be successful. Here's some things that we needed to add or subtract in order to maximize our system and our scheme and our players. And, I've really been pleased with how the guys have handled it and excited to see what it looks like. We got to get out there and play and execute and do what we need to do. But, we'll always look to add wrinkles and within the confines of being us, and knowing who we are and what that looks like and what we need to do to win and be successful. But we're always looking for, ways to make it challenging for the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Coach, we're going to let you. We appreciate your time, but I'm going to quote you from last year and say I hope you do it again. And that is something you said on our show, which I thought was really cool. You said, "We're not going to pass just because we have to." And I think that was evident last year. It wasn't just like when the chips were down, we decided to bail ourselves out with a passing game. You had a balanced offense, and looking forward to it again this year. And we really appreciate your time tonight, and wish you luck against the Texans. Sounds like it's Texans versus Texans on the Army team this year. So, look, hey, have a great year. Much success. If you can even do half this year what you did last year, it's going to be a hell of a year. So, Brody, let's go ahead and get out of here. And, Coach, thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you guys as always. I appreciate your time and your support, and it's great to hear from you guys.
Okay,
Likewise.
take care. Welcome back, everybody. This is Bill Crawdad Crawford, and we are back for our next segment of Crawdads Countdown to Kickoff with myself and Steve Cripey, the human Ouija board. That was a great interview with Coach Worley. If you didn't have a lot of familiarity with who's going to be playing offense, you should now. And one thing he didn't mention, Steve, but I'm going to bring it up, is Noah Short last year, who was a really good slot back. He averaged 10 yards per touch every time he ran or caught the ball. And that guy is fast as a water bug, and he's gonna be a good part of the offense this year. And I liked what he said about Dwayne Coleman, that he's a pretty mature passer, and hopefully that's a part of our game that'll have a little bit of improvement this year.
Yeah, I mean, he actually passed the ball fairly well last year. The Air Force game was a classic example. I think he was 6 of 10 or something like that, so pretty consistent with it. But yeah, guys mature at different rates, and it sounds like he's really coming to his own. So it's pretty exciting. And I wasn't going to say it to him, but I was a little nervous when I heard that Ethan Washington went down. But what he said about Kel Helms sounds like he's ready to jump into the breach if called upon.
Well, kind of along those same lines, sort of. What do you think are some of the keys to a successful season this year? Give me a couple, and I'll give you a couple.
Yeah, I can think of 2 or 3 right offhand. Number one is the comment that I made to Coach Worley. It begins at the offensive line. That symbiotic relationship that the offense has with the defense, the longer we can keep the offense out there, that keeps our defense fresh and that. And it's really a question of, I think the individual players are rock solid. Coach Monken has a system of maturing the players, getting them ready, allowing them time, typically plebe year, to see reps, really internalize the schemes and that. But it's about how they're going to come together. And the offensive line, especially in the scheme that Army runs, each one of the offensive linemen needs to know what the guy to my right and my left is going to do instinctively. And until that happens, there's going to be lapses. There's going to be breakdowns in the blocking and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be key really quick. I'd love to see it happen as we watch the Tarleton State game, especially with not to look past Tarleton, but Kansas State, a very, very tough Kansas State game. So offensive line, not only their individual performance, but how they come together as a unit.
Well, speaking of not looking past Tarleton State, that's like the old football adage. Bear Bryant would say, these boys put their pants on one leg at a time. I recall a couple of years ago, we looked past Louisiana Monroe, and don't even like to talk about that game now. So we can't look past these guys, although I think about K-State also. But I'll tell you what I think is the key to the season this year. It was kind of not the big story last year, but our defense was awesome. We led college football in red zone defense. In other words, people got the ball down the field and they didn't score. And I think, we've lost some defensive players. Almost every name in the defensive backfield is different. And our defense has got to step up to the plate and be, as at least close to what they were last year, because we just got to have a good defense. And Tarleton State worries me a little bit, but we'll get to that later. And, we were number 6 in pass interceptions in the country.
Oh, yeah.
We just had a real good defense that was kind of overshadowed by our number 6 place finisher in the Heisman Trophy. And that defense has got to return this year. They got to have some semblance of what they were last year.
Yeah, I agree. I believe in Coach Nate Woody. Again, the staff as a whole, as well as those coordinators, really have a process of maturing their players. And it seems like every year we have, especially the linebacker core, we have a Cole Christensen, we have a John Radigan. And and we the fandom, myself included, often, go Chicken Little. How are we going to do this? And every year there's another one that steps up at linebacker as well as the other positions. So I think they're going to be able to do that. My other key to the game, especially with allowing Dwayne Coleman some time to mature at the possession, get used to the game speed, and that I think our 1-2 punch that really Coach Worley hit on is, Reed and Short. Those guys, they need to be breakout players this year. Now, both of them are coming off of great seasons. Both of them are very talented, but they need to. There's going to be some games, I think, where one or both those guys are going to need to take the offense, put it on the back, and get her done, both in the running game and the receiving game. But I think if those guys can really establish themselves as a consistent threat where defensive coordinators have to plan for them, then that frees up Coleman. It takes the pressure off the offensive line. Maybe opens up some, he mentioned that the tight end room really looking good. I'd love to see tight ends worked into the passing game a little bit more. Some of those quick slants, those quick outs, maybe even screen passes and that, as well as, we've been effective at throwing the ball down the field to the wide receivers. I think all those things open up if Reed and Short become a consistent threat.
Well, and one thing I've always been an advocate of on the Army team is the passes to the backs out of the backfield. And last year with Noah Short, we did a pretty good bit of that, and it was highly successful. One of my other keys to the game, and folks, if you did not know, our coach Saturnio was the FBS Special Teams Coach of the Year. That's in, as Ronald Reagan would say,
Assistant Coach of the Year.
Assistant Coach of the Year. But that's in the whole, as Reagan would say, in the whole wide world. And it was in the whole wide world. And he's got a little bit of an issue replacing his kicker, who was 57, didn't miss an extra point, hit all 57 and 10 of 12 field goals. And those things are very important in a football game. And do you know who's going to step up and take the kicking duties? I don't.
Yeah, Dawson Jones is a kicker, and they're going to do split duties, allow Anderson Britton to do the kickoffs. But that is actually one of my other keys to the game. We have seen –
Really? I nailed something you were going to say. How about that?
We have seen in the past where special teams can either be the difference maker for either good or bad. We had that. We had the yips with the pumps. We were missing field goals in years past. But when those things are clicking and we're consistently punting the ball when we need to do that, although we don't do that very frequently, but those field goals. Getting solid kickoffs that are not, kicked out of bounds and give the opposing team, the ball at the 35. Those kind of little things can add up in a hurry if you do those effectively and can be the difference. I mean, it's the classic Beamer ball. Beamer, Virginia Tech, he was the guy that said you can win or lose a game because of special teams. And he really poured in. He recruited for special teams and really set Virginia Tech apart during his tenure there. I think Saturnio brings that same kind of mentality. He wants talented in those special teams positions and realizing that could be the difference between a winner or loss.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I hope that that's going to be okay. And I always wonder, will this be the year that Army returns a punt for a touchdown?
I still can't believe that Tyrell Robinson
didn't do that.
Graduated without one of those, because he just there's so many times we thought, okay, there he's got, we got the blocking, downfield blocking, got the seam, and something breaks down. Would love to see that.
I would love to see that too. And some of the other keys to the season, I think it's very important that we've had good stability in the coaching staff. We've added a few coaches, but the main ones, Coach Monken, obviously, Coach Saturnio, Coach Woody, and Coach Worley, they're there, and they don't seem like they're going anywhere. They seem to be pretty happy, and stability in the coaching ranks is key to me.
Yeah. And you mentioned the coordinators and all those, but then those assistant head coaches for Mike Vitti on the offensive line. The other assistant head coach is John Luce that handles the linebackers. That core unit has been together for a while. I think, Coach Worley was an outstanding add. He was the up and coming, assistant coach coming out of Kennesaw State when we were able to grab him, and quarterbacks now the actual coordinator. And again, I just see him as an innovator, similar to what we had a few years back with Jay Bateman on defense, who was really considered one of the innovators of the game. I think Cody Worley is quickly establishing that kind of reputation on the offensive side of the ball.
And, since Coach Worley has taken over the offensive play calling, which I think his first one was against Coastal Carolina, we've only lost 2 games.
Yeah. Hey, maybe something to this.
Maybe something to this thing. And, by the way, speaking of stuff that doesn't make any difference, and the uniforms we're wearing this week, which are, I think they're the gold helmets or
gold, black, gold.
Black, gold. We're 26-2 in that little uniform combination. So maybe that's going to have something to do with it. Maybe that's one of the keys is keep the uniform the same.
I don't know that I'd go that far. I like the way they mix it up.
And I think our schedule's pretty favorable this year. We still are dodging some of the big bullets in the American Conference.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm positively optimistic.
Yeah, I know we may do a deep dive on that, but yeah, it's an interesting schedule. I mean, we've got some tough games there. Kansas State is up there. Tulane. I think UTSA is an up and coming. They're going to give us a tough time. And then the Service Academy games. Air Force cannot stay down forever.
No,
I think they're going to give us. Our hands are going to be full there. And then Navy. A lot of people are picking Navy as potentially the G5 rep in the college football playoffs. And Horvath, while he's not officially on the Heisman list,
he is officially on the Heisman list.
I would say by midseason he'll probably establish in there. But the question is, he got dinged up late in the season, was down for about 2 or 3 games. In this kind of offense, as we know firsthand, keeping him there for 12 games in a row is a tough one.
Yeah, Horvath was not dinged up for one game in particular, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go ahead and take another break. And Brody, get us out of here. Back in a bit, guys. Welcome back to Crawdads Countdown to Kickoff, everybody. First show of the season, first game coming up on Friday. And we got some new sponsors. I just want to say hello to them. Firehawk Aerospace, Regenesis Stem Cell Center. And thank you guys for coming aboard this year. And also our usual suspects are there. You can hear them in the commercials. And also remember Nick's Restaurante. Go there. It's a pitching wedge and a driver and a pitching wedge from the intersection of Bailey Cove and Weatherly. Best food and best staff in town. So, Steve, let's talk a little bit about some of the key game. You know, you're not supposed to. They say, oh, you can't look ahead. Well, you got to do a little schedule analysis.
Yeah, the coaches and the players cannot look ahead,
but we can.
We as fans, yes.
Yeah, we can do anything we want to. So we start the season with Tarleton State. I'm calling that a win, and I hope it's going to be a big win.
Yeah, again, little nervous. I mean, the fact that they've got one game under their belt, and typically that's the first game is when a team gets all the cobwebs knocked out, and so they may have a little advantage there. Clearly, a very capable team that what they showed, a middle of the rung FCS team like Portland State, but still a very capable team. Great speed on defense. So we're going to bring our A game. This is not a gimme, even though we're at home. But yeah, I think we'll come away with a W. But the next game is Kansas State. Sort of the scheduling system that they've got right now. They try to get a Power 5, top tier Power 5 team, and at least prior to their loss against Iowa State last week. They were the odds-on favorite to win the Big 12. I think they'll get back into that mix as well. There's just too much talent there. But, Coach Monken has yet to really get his signature win while he's been at Army to take down a top-ranked team. I think Kansas State is still ranked 17 currently. So it's, can he take him down? And I think based on what I saw against Iowa State, they turned the ball over a couple times in crucial period during the game. So we get a couple breaks like that. But I think if we can get that sort of sets the tone for the rest of the season. Whereas, harken back to the Michigan loss, where that just seemed to take the wind out of the sails. Hard fought, close game, and we just never seemed to find our rhythm again after that. I'd hate for that kind of thing to happen.
Well, I would too. And folks, what we're going to do is just talk about what Steve and I think are some of the key games other than the Service Academy games, which always are key games. The first one is Tarleton. You got to start out on a good foot, and hopefully that will be the case, and that'll set the tone for the next few games. Steve, I agree with your analysis on Kansas State. I think it's a beatable team. And I think they showed that they have some holes in their game. And the next game I want to talk about that's a big game is Tulane. And Tulane, folks, just so you know a little bit about those guys, they are coached by Grissom High School's own John Summerall. He's one of the hottest coaches in the country. He coached at Troy, where he beat us 2 times at Troy, won the conference championship down there, got promoted to Tulane, had a great year last year, except we kind of waxed them.
Rained on their parade. Yeah.
Rained on their parade. They came up to a cold Mikey Stadium and they left with their tail tucked between their legs. So we play them this year at Tulane on October 18th. I do believe they are going to be just a mad as a hornet team. They're going to want to play us hard. And I've been to a couple of, I know you've been to a Tulane game. I went to one as a plebe, got chewed out by George Patton Jr., but that's another story. But I've never seen a win against Tulane in person. And I'll be down there this year. And frankly, I'm worried if I'll ever see it. I'm worried if I'll see one this year.
Yeah, and they did a great job in the offseason in the transfer portal. That's a program that has a lot of high-dollar boosters there. So I think they're going to be competitive on transfers and NIL and that. So that's going to be – I think that's going to be a key game every year when we play them and they're on our schedule. The one I'm going to put together sort of a trifecta that I'm going to group together as a key game, and that's Charlotte, Temple, and Tulsa. And you say, okay, why the heck are those? I mean, those are going to be teams will probably be 2 touchdown favorites. And how do we play in those? Do we play up to that level, or do we play down to their level? So I think that's going to be a key in those games that we should win decisively. Do we bring it? Do we walk away with a big win?
And, that's one thing I liked a lot about last year that has not happened in the past is the games we should have won, we did win, and we won them big. So a lot of key games in the season, but, you got to get by the first one. And even though the first one is an FCS school, it's going to be a big game. So we're going to cut out of here for our final break and come back and talk a little bit about the Texans, not the Texicans, the Texans of Tarleton State, where, Steve, I think your dad got a master's degree.
Yes,
from.
he did. Yes, he did.
So we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll have our final segment, then we'll wrap it up. This is Crawdad. We're out. Thanks for joining us tonight on Crawdads Countdown to Kickoff. One thing I did want to mention, I did not fire my son, Barrett the Dirt Pig Crawford. He's listening on the beach right now. He's on his final vacation of the year. So we'll have Barrett back with us in studio next week. And now, Steve, we got just a few minutes to talk about the Tarleton State Texans. Texicans was in Davy Crockett days, but folks, Tarleton State was 10-4 last year. They made the playoffs. They're ranked number 12 preseason in FCS, 42-0 victors over Portland State, and they've run that that horrid read pass option offense, which Wake Forest destroyed us with a few years ago. And to me, there's no givens in football, and I think we really need to go out and make a statement against them. But we certainly can't go to sleep against them either.
Yeah, they do run the read pass option, but I will tell you, their quarterback, he's a mobile quarterback, but I wouldn't call him a run threat. If you look at his career statistics, he actually averages less than a yard run. Now he's broken for a couple big ones, but that is not his go-to. His preferred mode is to throw it. The other angle there, his name is Victor Gabales. And Johnny Rico is what he looks like, but he's
I thought he looked like Joe Dirt.
he's a fifth-year player. I think this season is finally the final season where they gave folks an extra season due to COVID. But he started out at Washington State, Wazoo, and left there, went to Utah State, which actually was a conference mate of Tarleton State. And so after a brief stop there at Utah State, he transferred to Tarleton State. Now he's in his third year there. So he's got a lot of reps under it. He's a capable passer. Reads defenses pretty well, and they've got a pretty solid run threat. It was interesting. Their number one running back, Tylen Hines, after rushing for 20 yards on 4 rushes, was knocked out of the game and is not expected to return this season, I believe. But they didn't skip a step. Trey Page, the third, had 170 yards on 15 carries and 2 touchdowns. So they've got a lot of Division I talent there. I mean, Power 4 talent there. And Texas, needless to say, is a recruiting hotbed for a lot of those. And people who want to stay in state that are just a notch below, the Texas and Texas A&M and that level. Tarleton State is getting aggressive about recruiting those folks and bringing them in. So they've got a very capable roster.
Well, let me ask you this. Stevensville, Texas, where is that? Didn't you play them in high school football?
Yes, you sure did. Yeah, they're just, if you're familiar with the Metroplex, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they're just west-southwest of that. I'm in the next grew up in the next county over from Fort Worth, and they were about 40 minutes away. So relatively, maybe even 30 minutes if I drive aggressively.
Well, Steve, as the clock, our hateful, evil enemy on a talk show, do you have a prediction for this game yet?
I sure do. I think we're going to come away with a win. I think it's going to be a hard-fought one, but my little algorithm says we're going to win 33-18.
Wow, that's pretty close. I don't have a little algorithm. I just have a computer, and and I looked up some of the point spreads from Vegas and some of the predictions, and what I'm seeing, a lot of people saying is 37-10. So kind of close to what your wonderful little algorithm said.
But at the same time, I can see this being a 3 to 7 point win. If we don't come out there and smack them in the face, if we don't get out there and get after it as though we're the ones that have already got one game in our under our belt, and we're playing catch up, and we allow them to establish the tone, then it could be close.
Well, I don't think it's going to be. So we'll see. And hey, tune us in right here on WZZN Talk Radio. You can hear the game here. It starts at 4:30.
And if I may, sir, there are 107 Abut days until Army beats the hell out of Navy at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland.
And folks, as we get out of here, I always close with this. No matter where you are and no matter what you're doing, just remember, in this great country of ours, there's a soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine standing a watch so you can enjoy the life you live. Go Army.
Beat Navy.
Beat Tarleton State, too. We're out. See you next week.